Hello, everybody. I am Michael DeVellis. This is the Powder Group Conversations. We are with Terri Tomlinson on a career in makeup. We want to thank our sponsors before we get started, as we always do. We cannot do this without them. This is all free for you guys because of our generous sponsors: Scandinavia, Cinema Secrets, Beekman 1802, Senna Cosmetics, Muse Beauty Pro, and Omnia. We are so grateful to all of them for being a part of the Powder Group Conversations program. And these 6 sponsors also are full year sponsors for the Powder Group's programming. All of our programming this year has been brought to you by them, along with in some other programs, additional sponsors as well. But thank you to those 6 sponsors for all you're doing to help keep our community inspired and supporting the Powder Group artists. Terri Tomlinson, good morning.
Good morning.
I guess it's afternoon now for me. It's still morning for you, though.
Yeah, you're right, but we'll have to start saying good afternoon very soon.
Yeah, exactly. How you doing?
I'm good. We're good. We're having a beautiful day. I'm sorry that everyone else got our horrible Texas summers, because we haven't even hit 99 yet here. We've been having these cool mornings and no rain and no drought, and it's just been lovely. So I'm sorry we stole your weather.
You sure did.
But we're really enjoying it.
Well, enjoy it, because we're going to give the weather back to you soon. Terri, this is a session, and I know we do these sessions every week, and it's really an opportunity for our community, whether they can watch us during the live broadcast like so many people are now, or whether they're watching us later on YouTube or eventually in our podcast when we get the audios up, for us to just have a talk. Like, we're all, zoomed out. We're all watching so much stuff. We're watching online education, and this is a chat. It's really a talk about, you've accomplished so much in this industry, and you continue to inspire us, and letting people know a little bit more about Terri Tomlinson. So I love this first question, and I ask it to every artist that we do a career in makeup with. When Terri Tomlinson was itty bitty little Terri Tomlinson, what did she want to be when she grew up?
Well, I had a couple, but the first one I remember is I wanted to be a secretary, because I wanted to work downtown, wear high heels, and carry a briefcase. And that was the only job I knew that allowed you to do those things. But mostly I wanted to work downtown and wear high heel shoes. And then later, I really wanted to be either an architect or a mechanical engineer, because I love to draw like layouts of things. And I thought I would go to MIT, but I got derailed a little bit. So
wow. Well, where did you grow up? What city were you in?
Fort Worth.
Fort Worth. Okay, so you were picturing yourself going down through the stockade with your high heels and your briefcase.
My briefcase, yes.
Your super cute suit while going into your office. It's a vision I don't think I've ever seen. So.
Yeah, I don't even wear high heels. I can't even stand up in them. So it was definitely that kind of idealized Barbie, what do girls do kind of thing. And my dad worked downtown. So I thought downtown was super cool. And I thought the city was really cool. So I couldn't wait to move to the city when I grew up.
That's awesome.
At least I did.
So there's not an immediate, or obvious to me at least, connectivity between that or architecture and engineering into makeup artistry. So what was the thing? How did you shift? You said you got derailed from that plan. How did you end up becoming a makeup artist?
Well, I never really made the connection until much later on. But when I was in middle school, I was in technical theater at a very prestigious private school that had a really strong theater program. And they put me in charge of makeup and costume. So I dallied a little bit in it then, but I never really felt connected or that I loved it. But when I was in college, I wanted to take a summer off, and my parents told me that I had to get a job if I wanted to come home and not go to school during the summer. And I got a job at a department store, and they put me at the Lancome counter. Wow. And I wore like mascara like everybody else, but I was not makeup savvy, and I wasn't even very thoughtful about it. But I loved that job. I had a great schedule. I was part-time. I loved the smock and the clothes and the training and the makeup. And I was pretty good at the selling part. I was a terrible artist at the time, but it really clicked. And so I did well enough that when I went back to school, I think I actually took another semester off just to stay at that Lancome counter. And when I went back to school, they picked me up as a freelance artist. And I did that until I finished college. And then I moved up to Dallas and kept working for them. So it just kind of happened, but it really, it punched a lot of buttons for me.
What were, so when you were in retail and you moved to Dallas, and when and how was that transition for you from Lancome, smock wearing, mascara wearing, cute, sales girl, I use sales girl because that's what we called it back then, to Terri Tomlinson, makeup artist?
I think it happened for me later in the 90s because I kind of hit the glass ceiling with the retail industry. And my next logical step would be to become a regional trainer, which is what I always thought I wanted. And the reality of that job was being on the road 28 days a month. And for some reason, when they offered me the job, when a company offered me that job, I couldn't say yes, even though it was everything I'd been building towards. And so I started focusing on makeup for TV and camera. And it took me about 6 months to transition, but I signed with an agency late in 1999. And for me, that really became that step into artistry, because suddenly I was on set, being hired as a makeup artist, being represented by an agent, doing jobs that I could later see on billboards and on the television and things like that. And so I became much more focused on that kind of mentality of I am a makeup artist. And so I think that was really the transition for me. And then of course I just grew so much from there.
So let me know, like, when was there a moment, or was there a moment where, you're starting to get into this? Was there ever like a pinch me moment? Like one of those moments where you're like, I'm doing this job right now and I'm a makeup artist. Cause I think a lot of people are listening right now and they're saying, wow, like that was my thing, like maybe with or without an agency, but they started in retail. They liked that. They wanted to go on a path. They shifted and changed the path. And then there was a moment. People always talk to me about that moment where they were at, oh my God, they look at a check, or they look at their calendar and go, I'm doing this gig tomorrow, or they're on set and they go, am I really here? Was there one of those moments for you, or were there more than one moment for you?
I think I've had several, but the one that really comes to mind was about probably a year and a half into my kind of, let's say, production career with my agent. I did a shoot in the morning for People magazine with a local CEO and sports team owner on his Learjet. And then I packed my things up, grabbed a quick lunch and a coffee, and ran to this really high-end hotel where I was doing makeup for a model, and I was supposed to make him look like a clown. So I'm sitting in the lobby waiting for the model to show up or the producer to take me up to the room where I was getting him ready. And Jerry Jones, who owns the Dallas Cowboys, and Emmitt Smith and Troy Aikman all walked in, and they're sitting by me and they're having cocktails. And I called my dad and I was like, Dad, you won't believe this, and I told him about working on the Learjet with a really famous person, and then sitting in this lobby with these famous Dallas Cowboys, and about to go up to a room to paint a guy up like a clown for this big event that was going on with the Dallas Cowboys. And my dad said, Terri, I think you've made it. I think you've really made it, because he could identify with Jerry Jones and Troy Aikman. And if y'all don't know who they are, they're famous Dallas Cowboy players. But to him, that, like, what I did finally translated into something that he could identify with. And I just remember sitting there thinking, I have the coolest fucking job. I mean, come on, right? I would never walk into this hotel. I've never been on a Learjet, but here I am.
Wow, I love that. First of all, and you and I have talked about this before, and you've been in a lot of our programs, Evolution, Elevation, and so many different programs, the Artist Summit, where we talk about, that feeling of doubt or self-doubt we get when the people around us that are in our family or that we love don't quite get it.
Yeah.
And what you just described, I think, is again one of those moments that all of us need and want, where it's not only validation, but it's celebration from the people that you need to be celebrated by. So your dad affected you in such an amazing way there, right? So the lesson to everybody is find the thing your dad or your mom or your husband or your wife thinks is the coolest, then find a way to do makeup for it, and then they'll get it, right?
Right, because nobody talks to me about what I do for a living because they really don't get it. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And so that was something that we could discuss. And I think later that summer, or whenever it was, it must have been the summer, I worked for the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders on their calendar shoot. And he was over the moon because, again, it was something that he knew and understood. But yes, being able to translate and celebrate what we do with people who don't work in the industry can be tough.
Yeah.
Can be tough.
It is tough. And I think, you because you educate so many people, and because you're such, an inspirer for our communities, I think that's a great lesson for people. You have to believe in yourself, but you also have to allow people who don't quite get it to not quite get it. And then if there's a moment that they get it, then it's going to be even more powerful. So that's awesome. What do you love? Because you said a number of times you love doing Lancome, you love, the work you were doing as a freelancer and with commercial stuff. What do you love about being in makeup? What do you love about makeup artistry?
I think with artistry, what I really love is the detail. I love to take something as simple as applying an eyeshadow and break it down into these little details. And even though I am not detail oriented and I am not a perfectionist, if you look at my work, it's not perfect and I don't care. That's not what I'm after, but I love the detail of it. Like just covering up a dark circle so that it's invisible, but you also don't see the makeup, to me is such a success. And those are the things that drive me, is like kind of creating these images that aren't about my makeup. They're about my skill and my detail and my understanding of color and texture and all of that. That's what I really love, because I'm still exploring it and I'm still curious and I'm still growing there. So I think that that's my favorite component. And it's probably what's kept me going for, my God, like 32 years now.
32 years. It's three decades in this business. I'm right behind you. I'm right behind you, not as a makeup artist, but right behind you in the industry.
Right.
Was there a project that you had that you would consider either or both the most fun or the most challenging that you could share with us?
I've had a lot of really fun projects. I love any job I've done where animals are involved. I used to shoot with Purina quite a bit, so we always had dogs. I've done shoots with elephants. That was just amazing. So I've had a lot of really fun shoots, but I think the most challenging thing I've ever done was when I worked on a feature film in many, many years ago. We shot 7 days a week for 6 weeks. And it was a low budget, kind of high budget vampire movie. And it was just grueling. But I really had to learn about staying in my lane, because I had an assistant they brought on who was awful. And she spent her days just trying to destroy my life and backstab me and make everybody on set hate me. And I was exhausted. And so and we went on nights the second week. So I would like go to bed at 9:30, 10 in the morning and wake up about 3 and then go back to set. So it was really the most grueling experience of my career. But I also learned to just focus. Like, I'm here to do one thing. I'm here to put a fake tattoo on your arm and put a little sunscreen on you and some powder, and that's it. And it really taught me a focus that I don't think I had before, of not letting the chaos of what was going on around me and just the intensity of it take away from my job. And, but I'll never do another feature again. Oh my God.
Was that your first and last?
Yes. And I'm just not built for that kind of intensity. I don't know how V. Neil does it, like 6 days in the same place for 14 hours a day. And I'm like, I'm done with you guys.
Well, it's funny. We have Leonard Engelman, who is an icon in film, and he is actually watching and listening in right now. So
hi, Leonard. How are you?
Leonard, Terri, one and done for Terri Tomlinson.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it. Hey, but this is another important lesson, everybody. You will know if it's right. and you'll know if it's not right. And I think that people think, and you and I, have this a lot because we work with early stage and developing artists a lot. And, people think, oh, well, I want to get into film and TV because I love special effects, or I love this or that. And it's a life and a lifestyle that is not for everyone. And you
Yes.
have to find the one that fits you and suits you. And I think you're exceptional about helping students figure that out. I want to talk, of course, about education because you are one of the preeminent educators in our industry. Um, uh, I think that when people think about schools or education, they look for certain things. And for me, and you know this, when we recommend schools at the Powder Group and we work with schools at the Powder Group and we work with educators at the Powder Group, it's a lot more than just like, what is your curriculum? What do you teach? It's who are you? How do you
Yeah.
teach? Um, First and most importantly, how and why did you make a shift from being a freelancer into education? And well, I guess again, how and why?
Well, I think that it's in my blood to teach, and I think that it's been there. I was probably happiest in my freelance career when I was also doing artistry education for Prescriptives Cosmetics. And that's why I just thought I would become a trainer. But again, like the feature, that lifestyle was not right for me. But I think it was '09, the recession had hit us so hard in the industry, and I wasn't working. I had gone, I think, 5 or 6 months without a job or a phone call. And I thought I was kind of done with my career. And so I started focusing on, other things that were fun for me, hobbies and so forth. And I can't remember what it was, but I had a light bulb moment. I think somebody asked me to come do a runway show or something. And I had this light bulb moment where I was like, I still like this industry. I still like makeup. So I've got to figure out what I can do. And I looked at the things I do well. Where are my talents? I am not the best makeup artist in the world, but I'm a good makeup artist. But what I'm really good at is taking something, breaking it down, and making it so simple that I could teach anybody how to do it. And so I was like, hey, there are no schools here. There are no education. There's nothing in Dallas. There's nothing in Texas. At the time, you really had to go to LA or New York if you wanted professional makeup artistry. And so I was like, that's something I can do. And so I started working on a curriculum and basically building this business. And my idea was that when the recession was over, excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. It's all this lovely cool air we're getting in Texas.
First of all, I love that you called 90 degrees cool air. So that's really great.
Hey, you know what it's like here. It's kind of people. And usually after the 4th of July, we're pretty much like hating life. But anyway, I thought that I would do makeup full time or most of the time and teach on the side. And what happened was I teach full time and do makeup on the side. And but it was just a step for me. It was like, okay, the first thing I need is a curriculum, and then I need a place, and then I need to actually find a way to attract students. And I just built Makeup Training Academy. I think I started it in 2010. I had no one sign up for my classes for like the first 3 or 4 months, and then I got like 1 student and 2 students, and it just built from there.
It's amazing. And so when did you physically launch? And so how many years is that now?
I think I physically launched spring or summer of 2010.
Okay.
And then I moved into this brick and mortar studio in 2014.
Okay. So you've been in the education bit for more than 10, 11 years, but it's been about 6 years since you've had 7 years now that you've had the space. And you've been in the same studio since you first launched?
I used to rent out a photo studio. So I've been here since 2014. Since I think June. Everything for me happens in June. I launched the wheel in June. I launched Makeup Training Academy in June, moved into my space in June. I don't know. It's when I begin.
It's a good month to begin in. It's spring. It's the equinox. All of our I was going to say woo-woo friends in the Powder Group would say, oh, June is the perfect time for newness and for launching and all that. Let me ask you this. For those who don't know about Terri Tomlinson Makeup Training Academy, what are the things that make what you do there different from other educational programs, even the Powder Group or schools?
I think that I have a really strong focus on the technical aspects of makeup artistry. So in my classes, you don't learn cut creases, but you learn light theory. You don't learn how to shake and bake, but you learn color theory and texture. And I'm so technically driven in my classes. My philosophy is that if you know how to color match, if you understand eye structure, face structure, light theory, color theory, then you can do any kind of makeup on any face. And so I don't teach any cookie cutter kind of that stamp mentality of makeup that we see so much. I break it down and go much deeper. And I think that distinguishes me from a lot that is in this area. But it's probably very similar to what you and your educators do, I would think. Well, I know that.
I think, you know, what's nice is that, you know, fundamentals is what you're talking about. Fundamentals, you know,
Basics.
and Danny Sands, and I have talked about this before, you know, Danny is one of my mentors and friends and icons of our industry. And she's, you know, it's the fundamentals, and it's that old adage, right? You know, you have to learn the rules before you can break them. You have to understand all the hardcore stuff that might not be the most exciting, but you have to understand how to do it. And I think that's one of the things that is most impressive to me about what you do at Terri Tomlinson. I think it's necessary and it's important. And you've been doing virtual programming over the pandemic. Are you continuing to do virtual? Are you doing in person again?
So I just started in person, and it's been kind of slow to get started. I think a lot of that's me, but we're kind of waking up. And so I'm starting some in-person classes, but yes, I'm going to continue doing virtual. And right now, what I have on my virtual platform is all color theory. So I actually just pre-launched I think it's a 7-hour long color theory class called Color Match, where I train your eye to see color in color and color in skin.
Right.
And my hope is to continue building that, because that's a very unique aspect of the industry, and it's something that's not being offered in other places. So I'm trying to find kind of niches where I can continue exploring color and color theory and skin on my digital platform.
And if people have not seen your social media with those amazing fun, like, do you see what I see color things? You got to follow Terri, and we'll give you that social media in a minute. What makes you a good educator?
I think that I'm very patient, and I have a really good awareness of where my students are, but also because I break things down so simply. And I think that that is what makes me really good, is that it's more than just, oh, apply this pink eyeshadow. It's, where do you apply it? How do you lay your brush? How do you pick the product up with your brush? Let's look at all these little aspects of application so that you're more aware of what you're doing, and therefore you can do it better. And I think that's what makes me really, really good.
I think you're really good at the why part.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying, here's what you do, right? It's, here's why you do it.
Right.
That's amazing.
But I drive my students crazy, because they'll do something and I'll say, why? And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, of course you know. You don't do anything without a why. You know why, you do everything. So if you don't know why, don't do it.
That question why it's a big deal. And I think that once you can train yourself to understand the why, even if it's instinctive, because that's what happens, right? We get to where everything is instinctive. We don't have to think that hard. So we don't, but you're still coming up with the why. And if they that, when you teach them that's amazing. Let me ask you another question. What, do you think makes you a good makeup artist, or what makes a makeup artist a great makeup artist? What do you look for in someone? What are the characteristics?
I think what makes me a good makeup artist is that I have great restraint. And even when I do a heavy editorialized look, there's something so simple and natural about it. And so when I look for other makeup artists to collaborate with, I look for something similar, the ability to kind of see the face as an individual piece of art on its own, to practice restraint. I really love the simplicity that makeup artistry can have, and I think a lot of us make it complicated. So I love, and I'm inspired by makeup artists who have more of a kind of natural aesthetic, who really make the skin beautiful, who understand color. Those are the things I think that inspire and attract me.
That's great. I love that. It would be a missed opportunity not to talk a little bit about that amazing thing you've got on the wall behind you. You, I love your tagline. I reinvented the wheel because it's
Well,
so.
why not?
And why not? It's great.
Why
You created a whole new ideology and thought process behind the idea of a color wheel with the Fleshstone color wheel. Can you share a little bit about what inspired that? Where did that come from? And why, what is different about it than regular color theory?
So I was teaching my basic classes, and color theory was something that I had never taught before. And I was not taught color theory when I went to makeup school in LA many years ago. We did color theory, but we didn't actually like separate it as a kind of a component.
Mm.
But I knew color theory was important. And so I had a color theory session in my program. And the more I taught it, the more I got it, and the more I understood how I was using it without even knowing. But my students were not understanding. And I could go through color theory with them, and they wouldn't pick it up. They couldn't visualize it the way I was starting to visualize it. And I could not find anything to show them. And so it really was born out of frustration, because I thought I was failing as an educator because I could not convey to them what a blue corrector should look like. And so one day, after searching on the internet for an hour or two, trying to find something brown, something to show color theory in skin, I was like, F this, I'm going to make my own wheel. Now, how I got that idea, I just don't know. It just popped into my head. But I used to teach with this guy, right? Which is a great wheel, but there's some conversion that has to happen in your brain between this and your skin. And I realized there was nothing that I could find that converted color theory into our canvas, into browns. And so I came up with my wheel. And what it does is it shows you what brown things look like with different undertones, to be really, really basic. So what does a brown with a red undertone look like? What does a brown with a yellow undertone look like in a light, in a medium, and a deep? And so if nothing else, it shows you what skin tones look like with various undertones. And it also allows you to work the principles of color theory in brown, which is also skin, and neutral. And I mean, I grew up with Bobbi Brown and Prescriptives. Those were the companies I worked for the most. And so when I look for blush colors, I don't gravitate towards that hot pink. I gravitate towards that kind of violet undertone brown, rosy, neutral. And so the Fleshstone color wheel allows you to operate in this world of neutrals, in this world of skin, using full-on color theory in a way that I had never found before.
It's amazing. And it's interesting because as long as I've seen and I've got one in my shelf over here. I should have pulled it out to hold up and show it. But, I look at it, and as a non-makeup artist, it makes sense to me. So I can only imagine as a makeup artist, when you're having to come through that process, I hope every school, every cosmetology school, every makeup school needs to have that wheel. Imagine how much easier it is to teach with it, right? I think it's important to teach regular color theory. We're doing our color theory explored program, August 16th, as you know, with James and Bethany. But this is so different. This gives you it's like almost like cheating, but it's not cheating because it's a tool. It's not cheating to use a proper tool to help you understand something. So I love that. What's next? Is there another color wheel for Terri? Are you doing a line? Like, what's next for Terri Tomlinson?
So I think that I want to continue exploring how to use and learn color theory in browns. That's kind of where I'm the most curious. And what's next for Terri Tomlinson is to expand the range of the wheel so that it is more globally accessible, find more retailers in Europe and the Middle East, and eventually just be a global wheel. I would like the wheel to be taught to every Cosmo student, to every makeup artist. And I'd like to see brands using it. I've worked with a couple of brands, showing them how they can map their complexion products out on the wheel so that the consumer can literally say, hey, I'm a yellow orange. And the brand can say, well, here are the yellow orange makeups that we have, because it's a visual tool for everybody. And it still follows color theory. So I still teach color theory. And like you said, traditional color theory is still so important, but it's like color theory is here and skin and neutrals are here. And the wheel, if you walk across the bridge, allows you to do both together.
It's like the master's degree wheel. It's like, you know, you get your bachelor's degree with regular color theory, and then you go to your master's program or your doctorate with the color wheel.
Exactly.
That's amazing. My last question, because I always like to ask this question of our guests. You know, we have, as you know, at the Powder Group, and folks watching this on YouTube is, you know, who may or may not be part of our community. Big range of people, early stage artists. We've got film and TV people watching. We've got bridal artists watching. We've got people who are students watching right now, as well as later. If you could give one piece of advice to someone who's either getting started and wanting to kickstart their career, or someone who's in their career and wants to move to the next level, what would Terri Tomlinson's piece of advice be?
Well, my ego would say, come take some classes with me before I retire. But I think that what I would say to you is that you need to see this career as a craft, and you need to be committed to the long game, because a 1-week class or a 2-week class or a 3-month class is a start, but you are not going to get to where you want to go in a few months or 6 months or probably even a year or 2 years. It's like school. You are learning this beautiful craft, and you have to be in it for the long haul. You have to have long-term commitments and goals, because to get to the level of Leonard Engelman, you've got to work as hard as Leonard did. And I believe when I first met him, he said, practice your ass off. Or if you're not practicing, what did he say? If you're not practicing, makeup artistry is something you used to do. And I remember hearing that and saying, he's right. It's like being a plumber. You go to plumbing school, but that doesn't mean that you've got the van and the career and the clients and all the sinks in the world to fix. You've got to build that business and build your ability.
It's constant.
So it's constant. And so have a long game. I mean, really think of it in long terms. It is a career that takes a lot of hustle and time to achieve what you want.
I love that. You know, when I am fortunate enough to speak to student groups, one of the things I tell them is it's never going to be that much easier. It's going to be hard when you start. It's going to be hard when you're great. It's going to be hard after you won your first award or got your first Vogue cover. It's still going to be hard. It's a hustle. So it's not for the faint of heart, and it's for people who are passionate and driven and focused, like somebody I know named Terri Tomlinson. So I can't thank you enough for being here with me.
Thank you. This has been so fun.
I learned stuff today. I love when I learn stuff. That's awesome. Guys, this has been the Powder Group Conversations. I'm Michael DeVellis. We've been with Terri Tomlinson on a career in makeup. Thank you once again to our sponsors, Scandinavia Cinema Secrets, Beekman 1802, Senna Cosmetics, Muse Beauty Pro, and Omnia. Terri, thank you for being with us, everybody. We hope you'll tell your friends. Come and check this out on YouTube. They can listen to Terri starting tomorrow. Thanks, guys. Bye, Terri.
Bye.